Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. Our buddy Rodney brought us this cool Chicago coin moonshot pinball machine. I've never had this one, but it's kind of an interesting little game. So this is an EM Chicago coin. One of the oldest manufacturers of coin-op stuff went out of business in about 75 or 76, so this probably would have been just a couple years before that. Wonder if it gives us a date anywhere. Sometimes the artwork will be dated. This was operated back in the day by J&B Distributing Company. Now look at that phone number. Old 5-digit phone number. Wow. Wow. The thing's in pretty nice shape. Nice and clean. Has a little bit of wear, which is to be expected, but not a ton. It has the back box has separated a little bit here, but it seems to literally just be needs some nails. So we're going to fix that up. The back glass is in pretty good shape at first glance. It does have a little bit of problems. See how the glass is starting to get a little bit thin, the paint. This is typical of what happens to them after a while. We're fighting time, you know, people. But other parts are in perfect shape. So it just depends on what part of the back glass you're looking at. Usually it's over the lights, you know. Also have a little bit up here. See how it's cracked away, delaminated from the glass on that color. And then you've got some issues there around the score reels. But all in all, very presentable. Looks pretty nice. It has the 2-inch flippers. Now, it's just an interesting game. There's some different stuff on it. It has the 2-inch flippers, but look at this. They also have flippers really up here, but you can't control them. Those fall down to close the outlanes. So if the ball's coming down the outlane and those things have closed, or opened, I guess, you will save the ball every time. If not, you will lose the ball every time. And there's one on each side. The flippers, they're a little wide. I mean, even for a 2-inch flipper, there's a pretty big gap between the flippers, and that really upsets people. We've got this old game with zipper flippers on it, and I don't think it's quite as bad, but so it's a pretty wide gap. But they are adjusted about right. You see how the end lanes kind of flow into the flippers. A ball coming down will flow right onto the flipper. So if they were down farther, when the ball rolled out, there would even be more space between the flippers. You know, if you were to put them up higher, there would be less space between the flippers, but then the angle's all off. You know, if you did that, actually, well, yeah. So but you wouldn't want to do that. It just wouldn't work that great. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple little things. Look at the shooting lane over here. See how it's white? That is wax. We used to do this. I've told people about this before. I can't ever show people what I'm talking about. See all the cracks in the playfield? All the playfields look like that. They've all got that going on. Okay, it's just a thing. All the old playfields have these cracks all through them. Remember, it's painted plywood, you know. But what's going on in this instance is somebody used white wax to wax it. And so the wax gets all down in those cracks And all of those white lines you are seeing, like on that black paint there, okay? That white is not dirt. How could it be, right? And it's not the paint underneath it. See how perfectly it goes from the black up into the green, the little white lines? That's wax. So the wax has gotten inside of those cracks, and it makes it where basically you can see every crack in the playfield. So the playfield is actually very clean, but they cleaned it with white wax. The problem with that is you see all those lines. So we use like a carnauba wax, which is actually like a yellow color. So what does that do? Well, it dries differently to where you don't see all of that. So just by waxing that with carnauba wax, it would clean up a lot of that. So we'll test my theory here later. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. Now up here at the top, it has an interesting kind of setup. It has 7 bumpers. Now the top 2 are not pop bumpers because they don't have rings on them. They don't have the action ring, the metal piece that comes down and hits the ball, right? So they call these dead bumpers. So the ball just hits it and then bumps off of it, but there's no active thing. It's not a pop bumper. These are pop bumpers. They pop the ball away. So before the pop bumper came out, the games just had dead bumpers on them. But it has 7 bumpers. You don't see that very often. And then you have these 2 kind of interesting shots right up through the middle that have not ramps, but rails on them. So like if you make that shot, right, it's going to hit that rail and then curve over this way, right? Interesting little kind of layout. It's a symmetrical layout. Everything's exactly the same on each side pretty much. But it looks cool. Now here's the deal. So Rodney brought it to us because he just ain't into the 2-inch flipper thing. We've talked about this a lot. The 2-inch flippers, they're not really made like the 3-inch ones to knock the ball all the way up to the top, because the games weren't really made like that before then. So the way this game was kind of designed, these flippers might get it up here, maybe, right? But that long shot I'm talking about, it'd be very hard to do that over and over again with them little tiny flippers. So we're going to juice this one up. Now I usually don't do this, but we like Rodney and we think it would help this game, so we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to try to make the flippers super strong to where we can get some freaking action out of them and make it play a little better, where you can get back up to those pop bumpers and up there at the top half of the playfield. So we'll see how successful we are in doing that. We got a couple little tricks up our sleeve we're going to try, and you're going to see them in this video, and you can see if it works. Okay, so this game actually works. Everything on it is working. He wants us to test it a little bit just to make sure everything's working. The multiplayer, he's not sure if it's working. And he said there might be a few lights out. So I'll probably clean up the playfield a little bit with the wax thing, just to see if that works the way we think it does. And then we'll work on those flippers. But I think the first thing I'll do, just to show it off a little bit, is I'll take the glass out and let's look underneath this sucker so you can see what a Chicago coin of this vintage looked like. Okay, so this is a nice clean little game, all things considered. So back there, way back in the back, there is a bell and a knocker on the back wall. Two bells and a knocker. So see, the one bell, the large bell, has the coil inside of it like typical. And then the smaller 3-inch bell has the coil under it. And then you have a knocker that just hits a piece of metal to make a knock sound if you win a free game or put in a credit. Okay. And then you've got some relays here, and Chicago Coin had their own way of doing it, so it's a little different. They kind of stand up on their end. A little different than you normally see. A lot of this stuff was because there were patents on a lot of stuff, so they all had to kind of do their own things. Okay, so there's a relay bank of 5 relays that can be, or 6 relays that can be reset with that big coil on the end whenever they want. This says it is the ball count unit. Right. And then you have the score motor with the plastic cam. Now we talked about this before. That cam down at the bottom sometimes screws up, and then you, if that breaks, you kind of SOL. No one has made a 3D version of that yet. We had a couple people talking about doing it, but I don't think they had one to go off of where they could figure out all the specs. And it's also worth mentioning, if somebody watches this that wants to make one, the cams are different. The top one looks like this, but the other ones have a different tooth layout, you know, because one of them's an impulse cam, and then the bottom one just has the divots. But I believe the cams are all the same for each machine. So if you were to make a reproduction of that part, it would fit in all of the Chicago Coin games for quite a while. At some point, though, they switched over to a metal cam or something, so they fixed the problem eventually. But that thing basically gets brittle and screws up after a while. Few relays underneath. There's our 5 pop bumpers. Look at them. Look how beautiful. Look how gorgeous. Then we've got the Moon rocket unit and the Venus rocket unit. Boy, I like that. Okay, well, this is a little different than I thought. What in the world? So the flippers are here, and it's just the common flipper unit at the time. So you have a coil, you run power through it by hitting the button. It pulls this link in, which twists this pawl, they call it around, P-A-W-L, pawl, around. It has a spring on it. The pawl twists the flipper, bam, shoots the ball up. Whenever it gets out far enough, it opens up that switch, which kills about half of the power, so that you can hold the button open if you want. And then whenever you let go of it, the spring returns the flipper back down to the bottom. But here's the strange part. The gate that opens on the side is basically another flipper, but you don't control it. So see how it only has 2 wires? It's not a flipper coil, it's just a gate relay coil, but it's just like a flipper. It even has the pawl like a flipper does, although it's a bit different, I think. No, it looks like it's the same, actually. And then it hits some switches, which are probably light bulbs and stuff. And it probably doesn't lock on, you probably have to hold it on. Yeah, so when it pulls in, the switches touch. Wow, I've never seen that. Okay. We can make it work though, people. It's all good. Alright, so that's how the inside of it looks. Let's see what they... Oh, over here we have the fuses, the tilt, the other tilt, and a couple connections. Here's the back of the coin door. It's in beautiful shape. Look at that. What a great example of this game. This is a nice, clean little game. That's a mighty fine Chicago Coin pinball machine. Okay, let's lay the playfield back down. I want to see what the two rocket thing was all about. Okay, so there are two rockets in the middle. This is the moon rocket. This is the Venus rocket. This one's at 50. And there is an advanced moon rocket button that you roll over. So it can go from 50 to 100, to 200, 300, 500. And then you score it if you roll through the that hole, right? And then the same over here. So, very cool. The dead bumpers up here also advance the rockets. So I like that. All right, let me set up the tripod. We'll play it a little bit. I want to show you how it plays before we mess with the flippers. Okay, folks, so we're going to play it with the lights on for all you weirdos out there. That you do it with the... Come on, people. Come on now. Okay, so it all reset. Do you hear that noise? So one of the things that Rodney told me was it hums sometimes. It's humming right now. It almost sounds like a motor's running. So maybe it's supposed to do that, maybe not. We'll check on it. So let me use the flippers and show you what we got. Well, okay, still hear something. Now the lights, you notice how they dim? That's kind of common. It's hard to fix that. Okay, we got our left gate open, but then it closed it. Still making a noise. Okay, so see how I just got that back up to that blue pop bumper? See how I just made that shot? These are about normal, to be honest. Okay, ball 4. It sounded like the humming went away for a minute there, though. Ball 4. Okay, ball 5. And notice that the kickers are stronger than the flippers, really. All right, so that's kind of the shape that it's in starting out. The flippers, in my opinion, they're about how they're supposed to be on a old game. That doesn't mean that you would enjoy it, though, right? So this is his game. He thinks it would be more fun if their flippers were stronger. He doesn't like playing it with weak little flippers. That's completely understandable. So we're going to do what we can do to make them stronger. But this is what we're starting with, okay? And I think the first thing that I'll do is figure out what in the world that humming is. Because it doesn't really bother me, but I just want to make sure something's not burning up. So we'll check. Something back here. Maybe this one, maybe. It's one of the weirdest buzzes I've heard on one of these. They usually don't sound like that. It almost sounds like a motor moving or something, but I think it's that relay. Yeah, clearly that relay. Okay. So the reason that relays like that make noise like that is because they're vibrating. You're hearing a buzzing. I don't have anything to do it with. Well, I don't think I can imitate it. It's basically metal on metal, and it's It's moving, you know, like a razor does. Right? So why is it vibrating? It's because the way the relay is made, it has a metal piece it's a magnet. The whole thing's a magnet. So you run electricity through it, you make an electromagnet, and it moves that metal plate from like this to like that by attracting it to the relay. Well, if something makes it where that doesn't mate flush, so if you have you ever had a magnet or something that's touching a magnet and you're trying to pull it away and it's kind of strong? You know how it fights you? That's what's going on. It's not accepting it. It's trying to resist it. So that plate, instead of going, right? It's going like this. That's what's making all the noise. If that were to land flat, it wouldn't buzz, right? Or it would be minimal where you wouldn't hear it that much. So you're hearing a vibration, that's the buzzing and the annoying sound. So the way that you fix that usually is you clean it. So we need to take it out, take it apart, that plate, clean the plate, and then clean the front of the magnetized bit on the relay, and make sure that it's hitting flush, and that should minimize the buzzing. A lot of times people think if you just replace the coil, it'll fix it. A lot of times it won't, because it's a mechanical thing usually. Also, the spring can do it. There is a little spring, so whenever it lets go of the magnet, there's a little spring that makes it kick back out. Well, if that spring is too tight, what'll happen is when it pulls in, the spring is almost strong enough to pull it back away, so it's fighting the whole time. So there you go, folks. There's your melodic explanation of why a coil buzzes. Okay, so that's the little plate removed. You can see there is actually a hole in there, which probably has something to do with reducing vibration too. So I'm going to clean all this up a little bit, see if I can get it to look nice and shiny. And the spring looks fine, doesn't look deformed or anything. And then we're going to clean the face of the relay too. Okay, so that's better. I filed it just a little bit because it had an indention in it where basically the one half of the relay was touching it. But that's nice and clean now. This is how the face of the relay looks. Okay, so I cleaned it up, but it may still make noise because this brass slug is moving. I don't know if that's going to do it or not. That may be our whole thing that we're hearing. All right. So we'll try it. I'll put it back together. We'll see if it sounds any better. All right, it's still doing the exact same thing. However, if I hold that little brass slug, it doesn't do it. So that's what it is. That thing's vibrating. Okay, so these are our schematics. They are huge. So let's see what that thing even does. We're not going to get rid of it. Don't worry about it. It's an easy fix. But it's interesting, right? So it is called the player control relay. Okay. So it gets power on that side through a switch that should open from time to time. And then power comes through the coin unit, through the player control unit, through the ball count relay, and then once it turns on, it holds itself on, and through that switch until that switch there opens. Okay. Now that line there that it holds itself on with opens when the game over relay turns off. Okay, so what are they doing with it? It looks like there's two switches on it. So let's see what, one of the switches to hold it on. The other one looked like a make-break switch. Okay, so that's it right there, make or break switch. So, I believe this is shown. Let's see if it says on here. A lot of times it'll tell you how it's drawn. It'll tell you that it's drawn in the game over position or something. I don't see it. It's probably drawn how it is at game over, right? So that's how it is normally connected. The player control unit step up. Well, I don't know. But see the player control unit reset, player control unit step up. It switches back and forth between those. So on one, it's moving it from player to player, and then it resets it. Now, Rodney mentioned he didn't know if the multiplayer worked, so that could have something to do with it. Ball count relay, if it pulls in, and the extra ball relay is not pulled in because you don't have an extra ball, and the first ball relay has already pulled in, and that one is connected, then the player control unit steps up. Alright, so who knows? I don't understand completely it, but I think we'll figure it out as we go along. So that's what's going on. So I'm going to figure out a way to get that thing where it won't vibrate. If I can wedge something in there, glue it, do something, but you got to keep in mind that it gets hot because it's on all the time. So wedging something in there physically might be the best way to do it. Okay, folks, so I took a little piece of a cap leg and I slid it in there. And that seems to have effectively gotten rid of the vibration. And she's nice and quiet now. Heck, it's almost whisper quiet. Let's listen for a second, shall we? It don't get much quieter than that. All right, folks, so we're going to see if we can get the flippers stronger. So we're going to do this two different ways. The first thing we're going to do is, on this particular game, they have a playfield action adjustment jack. So you can change it from normal to strong. Now this is called high tapping the game, basically. You're changing the output of the transformer. You're just basically using a stronger lug on the transformer that's going to give you more voltage. If you look at the way they did it, though, okay, that just means orange. I thought that meant 0. That's orange. So we're just going to change the jumper inside the game, which will increase the voltage going to a lot of the relays, the bells, everything else. And so it's really meant for a location where your voltage is low coming out of the wall. So we're going to do that first. We're going to see if that makes the flippers any stronger. Now, in the cabinet, there is a little adjustment here I've been messing with a little bit. Playfield action adjustment. It's on normal. We're going to put it on stronger. Yeah, that's right. I did it while it was, I hot swapped it. We have another relay that seems to be noisy. I think it's this one. Well, that one. We'll figure out what's up with that. But let's lay it down and play a game and see if we get better action out of the flippers by just moving that adjustment. Okay, let's see if they're stronger this time. Our buzzing is minimized. That's good. So everything basically will be stronger. Couldn't really tell, but everything will be stronger. The lucky bounce. I personally think they're strong enough for the game, but we're going to go even stronger. That's right. We're going to make them even stronger. Ooh. The ball and play. I'm stuck on like a multiplayer game or something. It started a 4-player game or something like that. Now I'm on player 2. Oh God, it's got issues, people. All right, ball 5. It's skipping player 1 each time. Player 3. Should be last ball. And then it kicked it out and went to game over. So it's got... It works, but nobody's serviced it, so it's got all kinds of little issues all over the place. Because it really... You need to go through and clean everything, and nobody ever does that. So we'll figure it out, though. All right, so... Since we're trying to do the flippers, we're going to work on the flippers, and then we'll do another video where we kind of go through and try to chase problems. So... what are we going to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the bushings that hold the flipper bats up in the air because they're looking pretty low to me. I don't like how they're... Like, I can hear it touching the wood. That one maybe not, but this one you can. So we're going to replace those to hopefully raise those just a little bit so that they don't drag on the wood. And then we're going to put new high-power flipper coils on it. Yeah, that's right. We're going to put Gottlieb flipper coils that have had windings removed to make them so damn powerful that it'll bam, bam. And we'll see how it goes. Now, sometimes if you get them too powerful, you'll break plastics, but I don't think we're at that yet. So, but he wants them powerful. We're going to make them powerful. But, you know, there's really not that many good shots, even if they are powerful. But we'll see how it all turns out. But just for a test, we're going to put the badass flipper coils on it and just see how it goes. So let's mess with the bushings first. All right. So the old bushings are not broken. So I ordered the replacement ones, but they're the wrong ones. That will not work. So I don't know what in the world these are even for. It says they're for Chicago coin, but... So the bushing has to stick up out of the playfield a little bit. Okay. Both sides seem pretty much the same, but that ain't going to work. And then this one I had, and it's kind of similar, where it does stick up a little bit, but hell, it's no bigger than the ones that are there. So I don't know. I can't ever get the right bushings. It's a problem, folks. It's a problem. But here's the real problem. there's different types of these freaking flippers. Like, look, I think what's happened is somebody's replaced these with the wrong ones. See how that post goes beneath the lip of the flipper. So the bushing has to stick up through the playfield and then pass this up to that metal plate. That metal plate sits on it. It's almost like there is a washer or something missing. It should be a little higher. Like, I don't know. But I'll see what I can find out. If I can find a little washer I can put on that or something to raise it up just a little bit, we'll do that. But I can't get the right parts. So something like that seems right to me. I think they've changed the bats, and it should be something like this to where it sits a little higher, you know. That's my opinion. But either way, I ain't putting these damn things back on there if they're rubbing the wood, so we're putting a washer on it one way or another, folks. Alright, folks, so I mounted them in there. I cleaned the end of stroke switches. Now you need to make sure that that end of stroke switch opens when this thing goes all the way. And you probably have a little bit of play right here. So this is pulling in the plunger. It's not pulling in this. This just happens to be attached to the plunger. So you want to make sure that you fully seat the plunger, right? If I was to pull just this, it might open, but it won't open if I just pull this, right? So you got to make sure that you account for any play that might be in the thing. If you've got excessive play, you want to replace that plunger and the link anyway, but we don't have that, so we're good. Okay, and also when you do it, you want a little play vertically through the playfield so that it's not binding. Okay, and then also you want to clean your switches on the cabinet because power has to run through all that. If that's dirty, then there's resistance. So instead of getting, 40 volts or whatever you're supposed to get at your flippers, you might only get 35 volts, so it'll make them weaker. Alrighty, and so I've mounted them backwards as well. If you look, this is how it was mounted. So the plunger goes through, and they had it with the lugs down on this end. So I've mounted them backwards. Why would I do that? The theory is that when the plunger hits the coil stop on the other end, that it makes a lot of vibration down here, which is more likely to crack the little tiny wires on the coil. See the little wire there? Right, so you've got a little thin wire there. And so if the coil is coming in, if the plunger is coming in and violently hitting that, and you're getting a bunch of action down here, it's more likely to break the wire if the wire's down here. If you move it around to where it's up here, there's not as much vibration. That's the theory, at least. On the newer machines, they started doing that. So since we're trying to put some hot flipper coils in there that are going to be just bam, bam, Bigelow, since it's going to be stronger, I figured I'd swap them. Now, if you do that, if you flip it around, be very careful that you put your wires on in reverse as you're looking at it, because they're backwards now. Just to complicate it. So what I did was I left the old ones wired up, I mounted the new ones, and then I pulled it around and took the wires off one at a time to make sure they were in the right spot. Okay, so let's play it and see if it's stronger with the flippers raised up a little bit with that little washer on each one, with the plungers cleaned, with new hot coils, and with the thing high tapped, with the end of stroke switches cleaned, and with the cabinet switches cleaned. Let's see if that makes it a little bit more peppy. All right, so we're going to try it. It put scores on all four players that last game. It was playing a 4-player game, so I don't know what that was all about, but I was in there messing with stuff, so maybe I screwed that up by doing that. So let's see if everything will reset, and if it'll start a 1-player game. It did reset everything, but it looks like we're on player 2 instead of player 1, so something going on with the player unit or the ball count unit or something. But let's see what the flippers are like. Now, it's probably going to dim the lights even more. So next time we'll see if there's anything you can do about that. But usually the answer is no. Boy, they do feel snappy. They feel snappy, people. Woo, lordy, lordy. Did you see that shot? Now, I realize it went really fast, but you may not know YouTube has a slow motion feature. You might need to go back and watch it in like an eighth of the speed. Whew! Boy, it's a good thing I didn't hit it. I would have Babe Ruth the hell out of that thing. Oop. I hear a coil. Oh, it's the extra ball. Well, maybe not. They're not giving me a good swing at it. Plus the camera's right in the way. Why don't y'all move? I mean, come on now. You see that little curveball action there? We're back to a 3-player game with no player 1. They're definitely a lot stronger. I think the thing's sitting crooked. It keeps going right down the middle. Hit it a little too early. Ah, come on. I think it's sitting a little canted. When was the last time you used the word canted? Well, I think we've got the peppiness that it needed, but we don't have the it's working right that we needed. Come on now. Come on now, people. It's not supposed to. Come on now. Boom! There it went. Wow. The flippers are definitely much stronger. All right, that's the game over. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but wait a minute, Ronnie. You put Gottlieb flipper coils on a moonshot, a Chicago coin. Or what you're probably thinking is, wait a minute, Ronnie. You put Gottlieb flippers on a Chicago coin. Okay? They just happen to fit. They're the same exact length. So the only thing that really matters, if you think about it, is the voltage that they're designed to run at and the length of the spool. So if the coil's the same length, they all take the same size plungers. But if the coil's the same length, you can just mix and match them and put them, you know. Now a Williams and a Gottlieb might be completely different, but for whatever reason, Chicago coin and Gottlieb coils are exactly the same. So they had a lot of great Gottlieb 2-inch flipper games. So The Pinball Resource years ago conspired to make what they call a hotter coil, the yellow dot coil. And the way they did it was they just took a regular flipper coil and just removed some of the windings to make it more of a short, which made it stronger. So they've got, the Pinball Resource actually has a couple different strength levels. The yellow dot is their strongest one. So this is the strongest one. Now, if this was too strong, we could actually lower the high tap back down to normal action, and it would slow everything down a little bit. But I'm going to leave it like it is. If you've got a game with drop targets, this is not necessarily a great idea, because drop targets are plastic and they take a direct hit and then fall and they move and stuff. It's a good way to chip a drop target. The drop targets will break in half, especially if they're old. If they're the original targets, a lot of times you snap them right in half if they've never been replaced, because they're just 40-year-old plastic that you're beating up with a steel ball bearing, you know. But a game like this, it's pretty well protected. If you look everywhere that it hits, it's hitting rubber. Now there's a couple little plastic targets here, but it's just a round piece of plastic with a thing behind it, and there's a rivet in it, so they're not as likely to break as a drop target. So you're not in a situation where you're going to break things with this. So I think on this particular game, it's not a bad idea, and it seemed like it made them much stronger. So we'll go with that. Now we're going to have to do another video where we work through and fix some of these little gremlins. So it's starting a 4-player game every time you hit start. The first player is never playing. I thought I played it before. I thought that the first player was playing before, but there must be something going on down there. So we need to get that all straightened out. I'm not so sure the scoring is right. These lights alternate every time you hit a pop bumper, and it doesn't necessarily say that up there. It just says that on the top 2. So we'll have to check and see if that's correct. And scoring things, and I still want to clean the playfield with yellow wax and see if that makes it look a little better. So all of that. So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. We didn't have to do that, people. It takes quite a while, you know. And then I had to put up with all of the naysayers down below. But leave your comment if you're a yay sayer. I'm more likely to appreciate it. Leave your comments down below. Make sure to check out my brother Donnie. My brother has his own channel here on YouTube, and lately he's been working on an old '65 Chevy pickup truck that he's rebuilding. Swapped the engine in it, took it all the way off the frame and everything. He's been going through that, and we've been working on the old jailhouse in a town near here, like this little tiny 2-room building. That was the jailhouse 100 years ago, and we're fixing it up. About got it done, though. So go check out his channel. I'm over there with him a lot, and we appreciate everybody that's been supporting us by using our Amazon links. If you don't know about that, down below the video, there is a link to Amazon. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, please use our link, and it gives us a little piece of whatever you buy on Amazon. It doesn't raise your prices or anything. It just attributes us to sending you there. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. That's been picking up a lot lately, by the way, so thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the video. We will see you on the next one where we'll go a little farther on it.